Want to attend the legendary Thrivetime Show Business Workshop for free? Subscribe on iTunes, leave an objective review, and send us confirmation at info@thrivetimeshow.com to claim your tickets. Want to live in a van down by the river? Come by and see us at our Riverwalk offices, and we'll be able to make your dreams come true.
All right, Thrive Nation, welcome back to another exclusive podcast edition of the Thrivetime Show on your podcast download. And I'm joined here with Dr. Robert Zellner, who returns to us from his excursions.
Hola, Thrivers.
Did you leave America on your last
No,
trip?
I did not leave America.
I don't know. He
United
just gave a little,
States of America.
He gave a little hint there with the hola. I don't know.
I was curious. Okay, so you're
yeah, I was-
you had
I was in South Texas or Florida, right? Yeah.
you did national traveling, not international traveling.
Correct. Yes, sir.
And we have Harley Lichtenstein, a graduate from Oral Roberts
Lichtenstein.
University. What's your last name, Harley?
It is Lichty, yes.
Short for
Lichtenstein.
Lichtenstein, obviously.
Okay, so we have
Obviously, it's been shortened in an
Right.
attempt to.
Hard to
He's
spell.
a
I would
graduate
too.
from Oral Roberts University, and he's here to talk to us about whatever he wants to talk about. So, what is the question that you have? You cannot talk about sauerkraut or Volkswagen or David Hasselhoff
The
or
Wiener Schnitzels?
Wiener Schnitzels.
I love all the German stuff there. You know, Zellner, man, that's his German back.
Roll out the barrel, roll out the barrel of fun. Okay, Harley, what is your business coach question?
All right. Well, I think this question's actually made a little more fun, for you and Clay to reminisce on.
Okay.
So I want to know, what was some crazy moves or some stories that you had with some of your businesses? You know, you look back and you kind of think, man, that was actually absolutely nuts. I can't believe we did that.
Okay. You want to go first?
I want to go. Mine was my
Just a little story time
famous one where I put billboards all over Tulsa, and on it said LASIK. You know, that's the eye surgery.
Okay.
$1.
LASIK.
Call for details.
Wow.
I thought we were going to burn up phone lines.
How long did you think about that idea before you did it?
That's a good question. I don't know that exactly, to be honest with
But
you.
you had the feeling that this is going to be hot.
Pretty
You had
radical
to
idea.
feel.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It was so hot that because
I think you know that.
The board of optometry in Oklahoma actually came and had me, their attorney, their in-house attorney, sat me down and was like, got onto me, did a deposition. I mean, it wasn't like a lawsuit, but it was like you can't. What's going on here?
Right.
I had everybody irritated with that one. I look back and I've got it in my office right now. I've got a little mini, like a little mini version of that billboard that I look every now and then. I go over and I pay it. I go, that was a good one. That was crazy. This is crazy. This is crazy. This is crazy.
I think for me, the moment where I felt like my hair is on fire the most as an entrepreneur was when I tried to get into the bridal show, the Tulsa wedding show that they had over at the Warren Hotel. It was the Warren Doubletree, where they have the free cookies, Dr. Z.
Oh, yeah.
And I tried to get in that show because it was the bridal show of choice. There was like 80 vendors in there. And I called up the person who was in charge of the show, and I said, hey, I'd like to buy a booth. And she says, well, you can't buy a booth because we already have 5 DJs in that category. You have 5 photographers, 5 DJs, 5 caterers, and for the quality of the trade show, we can't have more than 5 of each vendor category. We can't have like 45 DJs, we can have 5 of each category. And so I thought about it, and I thought, I've heard this now. This is my second year in a row, and I've heard this, and I don't want to wait until one of the DJs dies. I want to actually have success now.
So I took a shovel and I found out which of the.
So what I did though is I actually I talked to my wife about it briefly. I mean, it was not a long conversation. I definitely should have talked to her about it longer. I definitely screwed up here. But I went and talked to a friend of mine named Lori Montag, who owned Montag Photography. And I went to Lori and I said, Lori, you're in the big show. Do you make a lot of money at that? She goes, honey, every time I book a wedding, she was kind of like a mother in my life. She said, honey, every time that I book a wedding, I'm there since I was in 3rd grade. She says, every time I book a wedding, it's like a $2,500 deal. The income I make is $2,500 gross. My profit on that's typically like $2,000. I mean, it's like printing money. You've got to get in it. And I said, but I can't. She says, well, honey, why don't you create your own? And I remember that question. And I thought to myself, like, why don't I create my own? I started thinking, like, what could it possibly entail?
Yeah, what could it possibly?
I mean, a wedding show. What is it, like a ballroom?
How could this go bad?
It's a ballroom. I mean, pipe and drape. I mean, what is it really? You know.
What is it?
Yeah.
What is it?
What do you
So I say to Lori, I said, Lori, if I book the Renaissance Hotel, will you team up with me? She said, yeah, because for her, if she books even one thing, she's thinking, if I buy a booth at your sorry wedding show that, you know, I mean, for $1,000, I mean, if I book even one wedding, it'll pay for itself. And she knew that I was kind of a gamer, so she decided to go in with me. And so we went to the Renaissance Hotel, and I talked to Trisha Kirkstra, and I reserved the ballroom. And the commitment to reserve the ballroom, we're talking about the big ballroom at the Renaissance Hotel.
Big ballroom.
I believe it was on a Sunday, so it was a better deal. But I believe it was like $12,000.
Ooh,
This is when the DJ company was maybe doing $200,000 a year of business, you know. So I'm like, okay, I'll do it, you know. Then I cold called, and I had worked on my script a lot because I wanted to make sure that I could nail it. So I cold called the Meadowbrook Country Club. Boop, 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 boop. I called every venue in Tulsa, by the way. I called them, and I talked to a lady named Libby, and she says, I said, Libby, I want to talk to you about being in the Tulsa Bridal Association wedding show. It's going to feature Lori Montag with Montag Photography, who was well known at the time, and myself. I was kind of an upstart, and the Renaissance Hotel and a bunch of other vendors. Are you in? She said, well, if you'll send me a bunch of vendors that are actually in it, then I could look at it. But until I see other vendors, I can't really move forward. And I thought, I tell you what, I'm so tired of her looking at logic and reason. This lady, she hates me. Olivia.
She hates me.
So I cold called the next place. I called Kitty Dishman at the Golf Club of Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. And Kitty said, well, who's all in it? And I said, well, you got, this is how I did it, though. I said, we got myself, DJ Connection. We got a Montag Photography. I mean, we got a Renaissance Hotel. I mean, pretty much everybody. I mean, she's say, okay, I'll do it. I said, you want to do debit card or credit card? And she says, well, debit card. And I'm going, oh my God, yes. She said yes. Now, here's the deal. It was about $12,000 to rent the ballroom, but then on top of that, you had the pipe and the drape, and I got the quote in, and it was like $10,000. So I'm like, it's $22,000. Now, I got a quote from Lauren, my advertisement rep at Channel 8, and she said it would be almost $20,000 to advertise. I'm like, absolutely. Well, see, when you take $20,000 and you take $12,000 and you take
10,
pretty soon you realize I'm like 40 in here. So I've got
in.
to sell like 50 to 60 booths just to
Cover your
break
nut.
even. Yeah. And I got like 45 days left, and these bills are going to come, and I don't have that kind of savings. So I'm just starting to cold call, and I remember I got Renaissance to say yes. I got, because they were the location.
Yeah.
I got Golf Club Oklahoma. I remember I got Signature Cakes in. Then I called their competitor. I called Merritt's Bakery. I said, hey, heard from a lot of brides you're a great wedding vendor. I've got Renaissance in there. I've got the Golf Club Oklahoma. I've got Signature Cakes. I mean, I've got Montag Photography. I mean, I hate to have you miss out. They said, sure. And the bigger companies don't mind spending 5% of their gross revenue on ads. They almost say yes to anything. They're used to. See, you're like that with your optometry clinic. I mean, if it's a sane marketing idea, you have a certain budget, and you're going to advertise on the back of a bus or on a commercial or whatever makes sense. I mean, you're
Get on the bus, Gus. Don't need to discuss much.
Ooh.
Oh, wow.
I was on a bus. Sorry.
So
was I not on a bus?
Very
I wanted to give you time and space to work that out if you wanted to continue singing it.
I think the Thrive Nation would vote no. So
I continue. I'm cold calling. Pretty soon, I got to about 60 vendors, 70 vendors.
Wow.
And I remember going,
You're charging.
I still am not break even. So I cold called this thing called, it was like Dove Wings or Wings of a Dove or something. I mean, I got to the bottom of the barrel of wedding vendors.
Okay.
And I talked to this guy. No, I'm serious. And this guy, I said, so you release doves for weddings? He goes, well, they're actually not doves.
They're pigeons.
They're pigeons. So
My brother does that.
they come back.
Yeah.
And
I
I'm
get
like,
to reuse them.
Right. And I'm like, really? He goes, yeah, but people don't know. I'm like, you're in. I talked to a magician. He's like, I've never done a wedding, but you think people would book a wedding?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah,
You got a magician there. Oh my
and
goodness.
And I'm not kidding. I had no standards. I got to a place where I had chocolate fountains were a big thing. Remember chocolate fountains?
Well, sure.
That was a big thing. And by the way,
it's still a big thing.
there's a massive amount of Crisco put into there to lubricate that chocolate to make it flow.
Cannot be good for you.
And I am not exaggerating. I had one of those shows where it was like there's like 3 or 4 photographers, there's 4 or 5 DJs, and then there's like 10 chocolate fountain vendors. I mean,
yeah.
because I had no. And they're like, well, how many other chocolate fountain vendors? I'm like, well, that's a hot item, and we've got. I mean, it's just, and I would just work whatever angle. I had All American Fitness in there, and they weren't even sure why they were there. I had Bed Bath & Beyond.
Don't be a fat bride.
Dude, I told Bed Bath & Beyond that they didn't even have to buy a booth. I just said, we've had so many people that register at your place, they would just want you to be here. Mm-hmm. We'd be honored. And I used that name drop. I'd call vendors.
Yeah.
We've got Bed Bath & Beyond. I call back Libby. Hey, we've got Bed Bath & Beyond now. We've got chocolate fountain. We got even 10 chocolate fountain vendors. It's going to be massive. And I'm selling. And it gets into like the final 7 days before the show. And I haven't slept. I'm sleeping like 4 or 5 hours a day at this point, maybe 3 or 4 hours a day.
Yeah.
And I got bloodshot eyes, and I'm just working that phone. It's like and the phone, and my wife is like, I think she realizes for the first time what I've done. And she goes, babe, you have how many vendors? I'm like, I've got about 100 vendors coming to the Renaissance. She goes, and who's going to work it? And it occurred to me, Z, I have nobody to work the show. So then it became like getting a cash box. I'm not kidding. I mean, it was like I had to find people to work the cash box.
Yeah.
I got Jim Nicolati, the body with Galaxy Limos, to like lend me a cousin of his or something to work the cash box.
Lend me a cousin.
I had like a stamper I was buying like at midnight from like Walmart. I put the thing together, and it was the bridal show at the Renaissance Hotel. And we ended up having 1,000 people packed in there. We brought in, I want to say like $10,000 from people paying $5 to $10 a head to get in. $10 premium, $5. Premium just meant you got there first. $5 when you got there second. But we barely got it to where it paid for itself.
Yeah.
But I had my DJ booth strategically located in all of the locations in the show, and I actually started a fictitious company called Always and Forever Wedding DJ Service that was always booked out. And it would refer DJ Connection.
Oh, unfortunately, we don't have that day. But
So brides would want to shop around. They're like, so what do you guys do differently from DJ Connection? And they're like, well, actually, we're all booked out, but they're awesome. Like, really? You'd recommend your competitor? Oh, yeah.
Now, did you name it with an A on purpose?
Yeah, because it was first in the phone book.
Oh.
I mean, it was
cover
like
all those angles.
You got all the dirty moves.
Dude, every Weasley move. And that's how I remember
Weasley move. I love it.
after the show, I wrote Lauren the check, and I remember Vanessa talking to me about the math, and she's like, are you telling me that if we didn't sell out every booth and draw 1,000 people and do XYZ, we would have lost? I'm like, no, I mean, I would have,
Everything, yes. We would have lost
I would
everything.
have had a maxed out credit card with no way to pay for it.
Right.
But, and that was sort of that
But we
entrepreneurial
we have a relationship with a magician, and that's has
Right.
value.
Magic.
I'm trying to remember his name. That was like something like the Great. It was like it was a funny name. It was like the
Great
Great.
Zandini.
Yeah, something like that. It was like it didn't make any sense in the context of a wedding show, but he was there.
I wonder if he booked anything. Did he book anything? Just out of curiosity. I'm just wondering. If you're out there listening and you were the magician at his show, let us know if you booked anything. I'm just curious.
Dude, and I had so many crazy things. Like vendors were setting up, and they're like, "Why am I directly next to another photographer?" And I'm like, "What was your name, Amber?" Oh, Amber, you're supposed to be over here. And I'm just like playing Tetris with vendors on the day of. I mean, I BS'd the whole thing. It came together. It was magnificent. But what happened is it became a tipping point for the DJ business because now I owned the biggest wedding show in Oklahoma. And now my competitors were financing my growth because they had to buy a booth to be in my show.
Oh, I bet they hated that.
Oh, dude, they all hated it. And it was a tipping point. I'm serious. And then the next year we did the wedding show. I started a party rental company. I had the DJ company. I had photography. All those businesses. And it was a monopoly,
Game changer, baby.
A game changer. And I think that's sort of those hair on fire moments that as an entrepreneur, they define you, they make you,
Right.
or they break you. I don't want to do it again. But I know I did it. I went through it. My wife was on the cover of the Bridal Association brochures.
I don't have
because
anybody to
I
take a
couldn't
picture
afford,
of.
Well, I couldn't afford to pay Linda Lehman, and my wife was a Linda Lehman model, so that's how I did it.
Makes
Shep, I
sense.
mean, that's how you do it.
Well, I want to have an overarching point from what I've heard from your guys' answers, and I learned this from my dad as well. There is a cowboy mentality to entrepreneurship where you've just got to figure things out, kind of have the cojones to push the big thing forward, like
Saddle
Z
up
with
your
you.
horses.
Exactly. With you changing the whole advertising game in optometry, or Z, you're just going to start your own bridal show because you couldn't get into the other one. That's that whole get whatever it is done, no matter what wall is in front of you, you're going to blow right through it. That's what entrepreneurship is all about. And I saw my dad do this my whole life. People would tell him, no, all right, I'll do it another way. One silly example is we were out of town on a job, I remember, and a truck broke down, or I can't remember what happened, but we had two giant trailers with big pieces of equipment.
2 giant trailers.
And we're 3 hours from town, and he's like, I'm not coming back for these. So he just hooked them both up to one truck, and he's like, follow me, boy. And we just drive 40 miles an hour for the next 6 hours, and I'm like, you're insane, but that's what entrepreneurship is all about.
240 miles.
It was crazy, man. It was crazy.
6 hours at 40 miles per hour.
I want to give Z the final word on
21
this.
gigawatts.
I want to give Z the final word on this before you lead us out with a boom.
Okay.
If you're somebody out there listening to this podcast, you want to start a successful company, I want to give you the statistics out there that I hopefully are very encouraging for you. But Chup, I want to put this on the show notes, okay?
Okay.
9 out of 10 startups fail. I thought this was encouraging. Work with me. 9 out of 10 startups fail. 8 out of 10 businesses fail, according to Forbes, right? However, look at the biggest companies in the world. Think about it. Apple, Steve Jobs. Did he have a business coach? Yes. His name was Bill Campbell. Jeff Bezos, Amazon. What? Amazon? I think I've heard of Amazon before.
Yeah.
He had a business coach. Right, Bill Campbell. Think about, Google. You ever heard about Google? You ever used Google? Google, they had a business coach. Guess what? It was Bill Campbell. So you say, you know what? Those are big left coast venture capital companies. Make it more real for me. Okay. Barbie Cookies right here in Tulsa. Barbie Cookies. Full Package Media in Dallas. Phone Doctors.
Phone doctors.
Are
those real? Are they real doctors?
Elephant in the Room. Lamode Cleaners. Total Ending Concepts. There are so many examples. Tulsa Oilers. So many businesses out there that have a business coach. And it doesn't mean that you're mildly retarded if you hire a business coach. In fact, Z, it shows that you have a coachability.
Correct.
So if you're listening out there and you find yourself in a perpetual state of chaos, my biggest breakthrough is when I realized that that kind of wedding show was my normal, and life shouldn't be that way. And it was when I finally humbled myself to a level to reach out to people who knew more than I did, who could mentor me. That's when I started having my breakthroughs. And so, see, for anybody out there who's been fighting this concept for a decade or more about having a mentor, paying a consultant, I don't have time to meet with a consultant, to pay a consultant, to hire a coach. What advice would you have for someone who's fighting that mindset of paying for wise counsel?
Well, I tell you what, an entrepreneur, I like what you said, Chup. They're kind of a cowboy.
Yeah.
They're kind of a go-getter. They're I'm going to make something happen.
There may be rules, but we don't have to follow them all.
No, I'll make my own rules up. That's how I'm going to do this thing. And so you already sort through the population of people, and you find they're typically an alpha. They're typically someone who's a getter done. They're good. They're going to make something happen, right?
Right.
And so the idea that they couldn't make it happen all on their own can be a prideful thing. And asking for help is sometimes very difficult for that kind of personality in a person. And yet that's the very same thing. I mean, you're going to learn one or two ways. You're either going to make mistakes or you're going to get a mentor. It's going to shortcut you, right? And we don't want you to be one of the 80 or 90, whatever number you look at. You can Google it for failure of businesses. We want you to be, our heart is for you to succeed. That's why we do this radio show.
You will succeed with mentorship. You will succeed.
You will succeed. Now that we're humbly submitting to let us be your mentor. Come to our workshop. Get online. Do our business school online.
Why don't you do this? Why don't you say, I don't believe what you're saying, and just go on the Thrivetime show and click on the testimonials.
Yeah, there you go.
And just watch 600.
Yeah, if you got instead of 5 hours of TV today, watch those 600.
600 testimonials.
There you go. Yeah.
Literally, there are over 600 video testimonials. Just watch it till your brain explodes, because we believe that the truth will set you free, and the truth is on our side. We have a system that works. We want to help you. But Z, we can't help them if we don't get a chance to know them. So if you're listening right now, just take the challenge. Reach out to us at thrivetimeshow.com. Email us, info@thrivetimeshow.com. Schedule your one-on-one consultation. And Z, do you want to take us out, my friend?
Oh, yeah.
Let's take it out.
Here we go.
All right.
Liechtenstein, did we answer your question well enough, by the way?
I think we sure did, yes.
I think is it Lichtenberg or Liechtenstein? Liechtensteinberg.
Steinbeck.
Ooh.
They catch you.
Liechtensteinberg. I like that even better.
They catch a niner in there?
Yeah, I catch it. Yeah. All right, guys, ready? All Thrive Nation together. I know you're in your car. I know you're probably in the grocery store listening on your headset, but just do it.
3, 2, 1, boom!